Welcome to Stormwatch by Grey Noise Intelligence. Each week, we cover the latest info on what's happening at Grey Noise, Census, and Vulncheck. Take a look at a roundup of important and timely cybersecurity topics, toss out some expert opinions, and drop the occasional conspiracy theory. This week, we bitterly acknowledge that your IT auditors may actually be right about the dangers of insider threats, as we take a look at a story from Disney World, where a terminated employee allegedly hacked into their menu system to alter critical peanut allergy information. We dig into the attack details and then don our tinfoil hats to explore the potential real world consequences of malicious insider threats like this. And we're excited to share Sophos' latest research on Pacific Rim, an extensive investigation into the nation state adversaries targeting edge devices. We analyze the deets of the multi year APT campaigns and show you live threat data to demonstrate the ongoing nature of edge attacks. And of course, we cover our usual roundup of news from Census, Check, and Grey Noise. And if there's time, take a look at what's happening in Kevland. And I'm just gonna say to everybody first, for actually, I missed the spooky music at the beginning. Actually, like I mean, the storm music is fine, but that October is a fun month for Stormwatch. I just love that. So the question for everybody today is going to be, what is your favorite parody slash novelty song or artist if you can't just pick one song? And the crew was like, where'd that come from? That had to come from somewhere. And they're right. They're absolutely right. And so I've been listening to this podcast for the past few weeks called It's a Matter of Time. I'm not sure if anybody else is listening to that. It's by the same folks that put out Knowledge Fight. And it's the podcast is amazing because they're actually doing a watch through of a show that I used to watch as a kid called The Time Tunnel. Does anybody know what The Time Tunnel is? Okay, it's a fascinating, amazing show from the 1960s that there's these 2 guys that are traveling through time via a time tunnel. And it's just it's a I'm actually watching it now because of the thing, and it's just bringing back all sorts of stuff from childhood, mostly good.
This
And
sounds like a Twilight Zone episode.
it is sort of, it's sort of like the Twilight Zone meets Doctor Who on a worse budget, and back in the day. But
I
it's
totally
fun.
like it.
It is phenomenal, and, they were, one of the episodes was going over, so James Darren is one of the actors in it, and I'm not sure if anybody knows who he is, but he used to be in, like, surfer movies, and then he had a very long singing career, and then kinda sorta most recently since Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine is not exactly recent, but most recently where we saw him again, he played a holosuite character who ran a casino and show thing and sang on Deep Space Nine, and it was great seeing him again there and doing a lot of stuff there. And the reason why I picked the novelty thing is they explored his musical career, and he has some very off the wall, like, this is the '60s, everybody, so some very off the wall songs that were sorta kitschy and novelty in nature and whatever, and then they did a whole diatribe on novelty songs and whatever, and it just brought back such a flood of memories that I just had to see if anybody else has favorite novelty songs or like, fun songs from the day or childhood or even present, because I still do. Actually, I do, and I do have one that has stuck with me forever, so I'm curious about yours, and I'm gonna start with Kimber because it's awesome to have you today, Kimber.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here. And I'm gonna take Weird Al. I just am. I think that like Weird Al is the voice of a nation, the nation in a way. At least those like people who, I don't know, the 80s and 90s, like I just that vibe. Like it reminds me of my brother, which is kind of I don't know why. I don't know if he had like Weird Al albums or not, but he's a Gen Xer, so
I mean, anyone that can make the accordion be like a modern rock instrument gets all the votes in my book.
yeah.
Any particular song of there that you like? Because it's hard to choose from that repertoire. Because I totally get why you picked an artist because of that. So
I wish that I had, like, some obscure Weird Al, like, deep cut that I could reference, but "Eat It" is just a
yeah,
masterpiece, that, like, will regularly just kind of, like, get into my head, like, not the Michael Jackson, like, "Beat It," whatever, but, like, the Weird Al version, "Eat It." So,
awesome.
yeah, some insight into my mind. Wow, that's, like, a deep A deep one, surprisingly.
Yeah, I thought it might surface some of that, so I'm actually glad it did. So
Yeah.
Emily, thank you for making time to join us today as well.
Yes, always, always.
I mean, there's nothing going on today, so I guess it's cool just for
No,
you.
very chill day. Very, very calm. Everything's fine.
Oh, hold on, we had so, okay, what one of our own
All
Steve,
about the
all
Pentiums.
about the Pentiums. That was amazing. Amish Paradise, also amazing. If anyone else,
Amish Paradise is a banger.
we got at least 58 live people. Toss your comments, folks. This is a chance to do this. So Emily, what you had some time to think about it, I guess. So do you have a fave artist or song?
So this doesn't really fall in the category of outright parodies in the way that
Okay,
Weird Al does. But the novelty piece and sort of the parody of different musical styles, it does fit. So there's this songwriter, singer songwriter, who goes by the handle Puppy Songs, and if you have to go if you like
fair,
puppies.
fair.
So he writes
Immediately
these
Googling.
delightful songs about dogs. He has one about the Amazon man. He has one. He really got big, I think, within the last, I don't know, year.
Wait, is this Cheese
Cheese
Tax?
tax. Yes,
It's
that
Cheese
was him.
Tax.
He's the cheese tax guy. And they are so wonderful. And his little dogs look a lot like our little dog. And so it's just like they're just so wonderful. He goes across like such a spectrum of musical styles. And I mean, there's one that's sort of almost like uh medieval choir style. Like it's just really interesting and really
Wow.
so fun. They're such fun songs. And he has nice little video clips to accompany them. So that's my like you can't be sad. I mean, some of them are really
Yeah,
indie. But you can just like Puppy Songs is incredible.
that's that's very good. I the Cheese Tax is another one that plays in my head on the regular.
I mean, we sing so many of his songs to like our dog during the day.
Aw,
Um,
aw.
there's a song about big stretching, like just the whole, yeah.
Mhm.
10 out of 10,
Important.
no notes. Go check them out. Yeah.
Okay.
When,
Okay, so wait, no, put that back up,
yes.
Ashley. Put that back. Overwatch did something we had to
When mom
uh,
comes home, that's a banger. Like
Overwatch likes the puppy song. Where the heck is ma'am? So this is actually good.
nah.
I need a de-stressor today, so I'm just gonna put this on loop at the after the podcast. So
He has just
if I could
released
do that.
an album on Spotify of all of these.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
So, yeah,
Cool,
God,
cool.
I love the internet
it's
sometimes.
so
Yep.
wonderful
Only
sometimes.
sometimes though. Only sometimes.
Sometimes. But
It
yes, that's
reminds me of also there was this guy back in the day that maybe still exists, Richard Cheese. Like he did
I
those
remember.
like pop not poppy, like jazzy versions of like metal songs. Like he has a version of Down with the
Oh.
Sickness that's like, get up, come on, get down with the sickness. And like that probably should have been my choice, but
Oh, that is so cool.
That's a good, yeah.
yeah,
Okay. I've
things you
Okay.
learned a
learn from
lot.
the
All right,
internet.
so the Overwatch already voiced and in solidarity with Emily, but I'm sure that you have your own. And what do you have? So Ashley, I love Weird Al. Growing up, my fave. This song is just 6 words long, a parody of George Harrison's "I've Got My Mind Set on You." Okay, awesome. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Um, and so my song is actually playing in the background right now. I forgot to start it earlier in the thing, and I'm just one more old person diatribe because I'm an old person. So back in the day, back in my youths, we had this thing called radio. I'm not sure if you guys know what radio is, right? AM, FM radio.
Oh,
You
Never
know,
heard
oh,
of her.
Bob, do I know about radio? Please.
and my parents were foolish enough to actually let me have a radio unsupervised. And one Sunday afternoon, I caught this show called Dr. Demento when I was a lad. Does anybody remember Dr. Demento?
Yes, yes. Me and my cousin went through like a deep Dr. Demento phase. It was really, is this just what all like weird kids go through? Is a
I
Dr.
think
Demento
so. I,
phase?
I think so. I mean, and my goodness, and so back and also back in the day, kids, we had tape recorders, and then you would tape the radio, and then you would make your own mixtape of the things from the radio back in the day. So I had this massive mixtape collection of the recorded stuff that used to be on Dr. Demento. For folks that don't know, Dr. Demento is kind of what put Weird Al on the map, actually, and just has all sorts of old timey and like throughout the years and modern just parody songs, funny songs, novelty songs, with some fun commentary, sometimes interviews. And and I think all the archives are available. I think the Internet Archive has a bunch of them too. So go out there and like go, especially today, folks in the US or folks outside, go there. And don't look at anything else. Just go listen to the Puppies, go listen to Weird Al, go listen to the old weird Dr. Demento. And my I don't so I and this has to be my favorite one because it comes into my head like every other day. And I'm not evil mostly, and I'm strange, but I'm not weird. But it's Tim Lair, who's a really famous parody musician. And he has a song called "Poisoning Pigeons in the Park," which is playing in the background. And I mean, we're not going to play the actual version of it here. People can go listen to it. You don't expect it's going to be a parody song. It sounds like it's going to be a Broadway whatever song. And I remember just laughing hysterically as a child with this, and the music is just light, and you can hear it a little bit in the background. It's light and happy and whatever, but it's about actually poisoning pigeons. It's pretty cool.
My recommended Dr. Demento hit is "They're Coming to Take Me Away."
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, yes.
Yeah. Man, the deep cuts today.
Yeah, this is great. I didn't think it would be this revealing about all of us, but it actually kind of was. This is
I
great.
know.
And now that I know that CB is a huge Weird Al fan, we're gonna have to do some stuff in Slack later, CB. We'll have to do that. So everybody, we have a podcast. That's like, subscribe, do all the things. I mean, you're listening already, so you kind of know we do this, but share it with everybody. For the folks that are discovering it, go to stormwatch.ing, and we'll be super happy to bring you into the Stormwatch fam. Because we're kind of a fun fan. We don't always just bring the downy cyber news. And speaking of not downy cyber news, I did remember to actually get the poll results today. Thank you, Jordan. And so we actually did somewhat of a serious poll this last time. We got like 100-ish responses across all the platforms. And we asked, what is the biggest cybersecurity challenge you face with edge devices? Very timely subject given one of our topics today. And device management, data privacy, network security, threat detection and response. The folks on is that LinkedIn? I don't know what's where, guys. Is that LinkedIn? I can't tell what's
LinkedIn
what.
is the second one, I think.
Okay, so the top one must be I don't know what it is. Anyway, so one of the
That's weird.
platforms that's the bottom. So one of the from this particular platform, and we'll fill in the gaps in the show notes. Device management and updates is the biggest cybersecurity challenge, followed by threat detection and response for the folks on this platform I don't recognize. For the middle one, which I don't know which one this is either.
That's LinkedIn, I think.
That's LinkedIn. Okay. On network security beats out like almost everything, although device management and data privacy are about equal. And on Twitter, which would and X, sorry, I should not call it Twitter. On X, where I guess a lot of the cyber folks still hang out, threat detection and response led the pack, which that's not very surprising for there. Then followed by device management and updates. So now you know what your peers think on different platforms.
So
That's
I'm
really
actually,
interesting.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, just like that there's even a difference across the
Yes.
platforms is interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was like I love the fact that Jordan takes the time because this is work, people. Like it may sound like a pull, but Jordan does a heck of a lot of work to put these things out and collect the data for us. And I would have thought I actually would have thought everyone would have said device management and updates, honestly, because I remember that being one of my biggest challenges back in the day. It might have gotten better, although with like all the breaches of the tools that manage things, maybe not now, but I don't know.
This is just making me think about your respective audiences on each of these platforms and sort of what, like, I almost would have expected like the data privacy and compliance thing to be bigger on LinkedIn, but this is interesting. I'm
Yeah.
curious about these patterns over time, like how these different audiences compare, like month
Yeah,
over
this is
month.
gonna be
Like,
great.
this is
Yeah,
interesting in
so
a very
Jordan,
non-scientific way, but like
science? Who needs science, Emily?
This is just a vibes-based podcast.
we don't do this here. Yeah.
We don't do
Absolutely not.
science. There's
All right.
not two data scientists on this podcast.
No, it's just
That's
Emily.
true.
Yeah.
There's just one. No, I was gonna say it's just
I
one.
beat you. So we had topics, but Overwatch, we got breaking news, I think, right?
Oh,
We had the music. I was gonna
do we?
we have music. I'll do it. I can find it.
It's not breaking news without the music.
There we go. So our breaking news is that Canadian, yay, go Canada, eh? Go Canada. Canadian authorities have arrested a person suspected of orchestrating a series of data exfiltration attacks targeting customers of the data storage firm Snowflake. They caught the Snowflake hacker, guys. This is
Man.
amazing. So Alexander Connor, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, 26 years old, Ontario dude, arrested on the 30th in Kitchener, Canada. In connection with this, these happened back in April and July, if you might remember. 165 plus companies impacted, and he worked with somebody named John Binns, who was the mastermind behind the AT&T attack that we covered about a month or two ago. And they're part of a group called The Calm, and Mandy is tracking these guys. So go read this story. Remember, we're trying to help everybody stay distracted today. So this is a great story to be distracted with. Go hit the details, figure stuff out. Go tell all your peers inside your orgs, look smart. Be kind of cool. Okay, so we're gonna get into the meat of things today. Okay, good.
Just
Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
really like when they include the handles that people go by,
Go ahead.
because
Go for it.
going by waifu just brings me like a lot of joy. The kids are all right. Well, I mean, until they're doing like massive crime, and then they're not all right.
Yeah, I think these kids maybe are not all right. I think they've been implicated in a lot of different things.
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm very curious the like background on how they caught them, I guess.
I
I
mean,
haven't read the story yet.
if orgs had enabled MFA on their Snowflake instances, it wouldn't have mattered though. So just
Mm,
I'm not. It's okay.
we can move on.
We can move on. Just before I get in trouble again. So if people may have seen the story, and we actually included it for a different reason than we're covering right now, but that's okay. The Disney they fired employee allegedly hacked Disney World's menu system to alter peanut allergy information. And oh boy, so I just want to bounce through a couple of things here. Then I want to talk to everybody and get thoughts from everybody. So Michael Schur, a former menu production manager, wow, that's a title, at an unnamed entertainment company, which is actually turns out to be Disney. In hold on, we don't just have to take 404's spiffy word at it. We can actually go right to the criminal complaint.
Mm.
Is charged with computer fraud under 18 USC 1030, which is the normal one everyone does. After being fired in June, he allegedly conducted multiple cyber attacks against Disney between July and September. The first intrusion compromised the menu creation system by replacing fonts with wingdings, making menus unusable. The second intrusion manipulated allergen information, creating potential safety risks. And the third is he modified QR codes to redirect to boycottisrael.org, and then he also launched the denial of service attack. So he was a busy man, very, very busy man.
Wow.
Yeah.
He really went for it.
He used Molvad VPN. Big fan of Molvad, but it can be used for bad purposes
Oh,
as well.
I have a really good conspiracy theory about Molvad.
Oh, I want to hear
Okay,
it.
yeah, let's do that. Let's break away and do that real quick because
Sorry.
I want
Just,
that's what we're here for. That we are here to talk about these things. So yes.
it is what we go for, right? I heard the other day that there is a group of people who believe that Molvad is run by the NSA. That like it is an NSA like provider for VPN services. And the more that I think about it, the more that I love that and have accepted it as truth.
Remy, if you're listening, we need to change some things. If that's the case, just we'll talk after the show. Wow,
Friendship.
that's
Why
that
specifically? I'm curious why Molvad. Like, what's the thought there?
I think maybe like the professionalism or something around that. I'm not sure. I have no idea. I didn't ask why.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, I mean,
conspiracy. Why
I like
ask
it.
why?
I
Yeah.
mean, didn't the DoD develop Tor?
They were in the phone lines, so they're definitely in the VPN
they're
lines.
everywhere. Yeah, they're everywhere.
And if they're not, China is. So hey, somebody's government's listening to us.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Anyways.
that is fascinating though, because I mean, I guess any one of these could actually be, but that one in particular is kind of weird. Brianna and I from the team were talking. This must be like 2 or 3 months ago now. We're because we all use Molbed in one way. We both work and non-work stuff, and like one of us wants to test the send an anonymous letter with your payment, via snail mail or carrier pigeon and see if it actually does work. And I'm because that they claim they'll do that, and I've never tested that. I've not talked to anybody that has, but if you have tested that and you're listening, let us know because I'd be curious to see if that actually does work. It's a cool offering, if basically if they do that. So I will keep. We don't need to keep the affidavit up while I finish the diatribe here. So he used Mulvad, created a fake admin account. Emily P. Beeman. I don't know if there's anything whatever about that. He did have a fairly complex VM or set up for doing the attacks, and he maintained a docs. First of all, if you're going to have a docs folder, don't name it docs. So he maintained a docs
Uh,
folder with PII on targets, and the attack ceased precisely when the FBI raided his home. Go figure. IP address correlation between attacks and his known Molvad usage were they have all that. They found attack tools and evidence on his seized computers, pattern of targeting former colleagues and those involved in his termination, and they claim that the damages were about $150,000. And so he's been arrested. Search warrant was executed on the 23rd, and they got basically it looks like they got the guy. So first of all, just overall thoughts on insider threat and the validity of insider threat and all that kind of stuff.
this this I think about a lot because you you have I'm trying to think about like this from a threat modeling perspective of just like when you have employees who have access to systems that are not managed by you, like they're in some sort of cloud or like there's something that you have to set up accounts up for, like if they're an IT user or if they're a basic user, like how much do they understand about like the infrastructure of how you run that cloud service? And like how many things do you have to change besides their access after somebody leaves? Or especially if you're going to fire someone, like how quickly do you get rid of their access? And like how many things do you really have to change? Like, are you going so far as to like rotate keys when you fire somebody? Or like what's your level? Because if it's just password, chances are that isn't enough.
I've had this conversation in past companies to varying low levels of success where it's like we have to assume like given the level of access that lots of engineers have or things like that, like you I think we can't like afford to be kind of lazy about it. I've had executives, kind of shoot down the idea of insider threat altogether. No one that works here would do that. No one, and it's like, whoa, that's not a healthy stance at all. Or the question of like, how quickly do we terminate access when someone leaves? If someone's getting let go, immediately. Like it shocks me that that's still even a question in some organizations. Like you just I know how it feels. And now, having been a part of this process in certain situations, like it feels really bad. Like it doesn't feel good. But ultimately, like from a security perspective, that all has to go and be rotated. Like you have to have a plan for that too. If somebody who's like, I don't know, very like high up in your DevOps org or whatever is getting let go, like you have to have a plan to like make sure that things get rotated and things get addressed appropriately. And again, maybe my experience is sort of weird and a bit of an outlier, but like I've had to convince people that this is actually a potential problem or a big risk, which is really strange to me.
Yeah, that's actually pretty disconcerting, and to both of your point, like, one area that if I was still running security anywhere that would keep me up at night are all of the, you know, encoded API keys that are just keys and maybe just got generated and are really not tied to anybody, and do you know they have it, and or are they using the service account one that you don't know, and can you actually terminate
Service
this?
accounts.
Yeah, so all that thing. So yeah, there's just a lot of and the actual details of exactly how he got in and did what he did is not listed. But the thing that caught our interest earlier on because we thought there was a connection, but there really isn't to another story is like this person like okay beyond being just like a terrible person for doing what he did just in general like the changing of menus to alter allergen information especially the peanut one which is in a lot of cases very deadly and I'm wondering like it hit us because we thought there was a related case, but that's a really scary like, if he had just been more stealthy and didn't be as obnoxious and whatever for the attacks that he was doing, someone could have died with or become very, very ill at
Right.
the very least, and that's like, how many more instances like this could there possibly be? This is that was a pretty chilling thing when we're having that discussion, and I'm
Right.
curious if anyone wanna talk about it.
It's just like one of those things, it's one of those consequences that, like, I think we joke about as an industry sometimes, or, like, not joke, but, like, there's no way anybody could possibly die from, like, a cyber attack, and I don't know that I would even file this under, like, the changing of the menu, like, it seems just like a malicious thing to do, like, it doesn't seem like a cyber attack because chances are this guy had just some access to an admin account. Like, I don't think this guy was slinging SQL statements at the database to change the menu. I could be wrong,
I mean,
but
he was the menu production manager, so, I
It was
mean, he probably
abusive behavior. So
yeah,
maybe he
right.
wasn't necessarily like doing anything from a technical security perspective, but he was like essentially kind of, I guess, disinformation,
yeah.
Yeah.
which kind of falls under like abuse or I guess trust and safety if you want to think about it that way. But yeah, so like this whole notion of like people actually dying as a result of cyber attack or I'll lump like trust and safety and sort of anti-abuse kind of in there largely too. I feel like we associate that a lot with things like ransomware at hospitals. That's like kind of
Mm,
I think a classic case of like
yeah.
when we talk about this. But I think there's probably a lot more instances of things like this that maybe we just aren't thinking about as an industry. Because like, what a kind of strange, obscure thing to do, and then to have happen with potential ramifications. And so, even thinking about like, I don't know, changing dosing information for prescriptions or things that maybe aren't as big and bold as like taking down a whole hospital or something. I don't know, like I think there's probably a lot of this that warrants concern.
That's immediately what my brain went to, was like the other medical things that can affect people, where it's like dosing information, prescription information. I think I heard once that, like, there was a concern in hospitals of, like, deliberately, like, mixing up patient information or something like that, and so it's, like, one of those things that's, like, right on the edge of "hacking," quote, unquote, but yeah.
So, and, like, Emily, you brought up the ransomware, and in the past, for very good reasons, in the past 5 or 6 years, data integrity has been the the conversation around it has generally stemmed from ransomware, like, you basically encrypt everything and you can't get access to your data, so the integrity of the data is now gone, and but I'm wondering if that has distracted folks from this other integrity, which is, like, the menu system integrity did change, and I'm gonna bet that no one even had changing the menu items as a high level risk of anything, even because no one probably thought, "Oh, what if they change the peanut thing?" Because there's no guarantee it's gonna get caught by the kitchen staff if that's actually there, and if someone isn't very emphatic about that, and, like, t the men the medicine and dosing and changes as well too, so, we try to put things in practical terms for defenders that are listening to take it way back, and maybe everyone needs to sit back, maybe if December is a slow month, maybe nice to have a slow month again. If December is a slow month, take some time to revisit your risk portfolio and maybe think of some systems where if you had a low integrity risk, maybe they're not so low. Do you have the equivalent of the menu system that if things were changed in a certain way could do more extensive harm than you ever thought originally? Just kind of update your playbooks a little bit to think differently about how that risk is associated.
Yeah, and take a page from one of my old IT managers, and if anybody says that they're quitting, just take everything away immediately. What would that look like? Like, if somebody did that? Like, if they put in their notice and then, like, just messed around with a bunch of shit. I already really liked that he did that. That was a 2-week vacation after I put my 2 weeks in that I didn't know I was gonna get.
I feel like that's the way to do it. The other
Yeah.
Yeah.
thing
Great.
that like this made me think of, like thinking about sort of like who has like changing a menu board in their threat model. Like I think this falls into a different category of so like there's obviously like IT security risks, right? Like revoking access, turning off accounts, things like that. Like that all falls kind of, I think, under like this IT infrastructure security piece. I think there's also a piece that a lot of organizations tend to overlook around, and I don't know, this is on my brain, but like sort of this how could my product or service or whatever I'm responsible for, maybe it's not going to get hacked. Maybe it's not going, maybe there's not going to be like SQL injection that's the problem. but how is it going to get misused somehow in a really damaging or dangerous way? And I think it's probably worth thinking about that in your threat model. Like maybe it's not someone hacking something, but it's someone taking advantage of a particular functionality or feature within your product or within, again, a service that you're responsible for. Because I feel like those are sort of these sort of like little quiet, insidious things that are in the corner in a lot of ways that maybe don't get that attention because they're so unique to every organization, right? Like it sort of depends on, again, what your product or service is responsible for, but like there are so many different ways to misuse and abuse those types of things, um, that I think it's worth really thinking creatively about, okay, if I wasn't going to hack this system but I wanted to do something nefarious, what would I do? I just feel like that's so important and not talked about very often.
So, speaking of repurposing devices for nefarious use, look at that
Ooh,
transition.
good
Uh,
segue.
Sophos did an amazing thing this week and produced a report that if anybody in cyber doesn't know it exists, please go to the links and read this thing and read it thoroughly all the way through and then maybe do it again because it's a very long report. It's a very detailed report about a multi-year campaign. Everybody keeps saying 5 years, but like I saw the advanced copy of it and the report itself, and it actually started 7 years ago. Although most of the activity happened within 5 years, but I still think it's important to say it's 2 more years than well everyone's really saying. And it all started with a hacked kind of like lobby display and it ended up with a whole slew of companies being impacted across all sorts of different edge technologies by a massive campaign from what appeared to be Chinese state-sponsored actors, literally obliterating the security of every conceivable edge security device you've ever heard of, which is why I'm not picking on any one individual with any of the little parody songs that we have, speaking of parody songs, because I know they weren't intended as a parody song, but they're not all parody songs because everybody got impacted. They hit flaws in every single vendor, and not just like the initial access flaws, but also the elevation of privilege flaws, basically the chain CVE attacks. And I want to talk to everybody about this before just showing it. But basically, we have our own little take on this thing. The the persistent perimeter threat strategic insights from a multi-year APT campaign targeting edge devices. Like what our new content person Noah he writes so well, and this is a really great summary of it, and also some stuff that we're doing. Like Grey Noise has opened up the platform for a while, so that you can double check. Actually, so you can double check. You can see what the activity is against these CVEs currently. If you weren't one of the companies that was already contacted by Sophos, kind of go through a whole bunch of these things, and just kind of catch that and kind of catch out our new CVE product. And just to give everybody an idea of the scope of these things, like these things, the CVE ranges go back to 2004. This is the dental service vulnerability. They're all over the place going back, most of them start to go back 2017. Every conceivable technology, like the CVS score distribution is bonkers as well too. And this was just a phenomenal bit of sleuthing that that Sophos did, but also just the patience and the extent what extent I know the expanse of the attack is just bonkers to me. So instead of me being incoherent, I'm curious what your folks' thoughts were on the report because you all got a chance to at least skim through all the details since like this drop on Tuesday or Monday.
Emily, I was gonna let you go
Okay.
first.
So I actually kind of have a question. So it's fascinating. I'm curious. I feel like there's been discussion of Sophos actually publishing this publicly and sort of talking about a little bit of the sort of secret sauce in some ways of how they eventually kind of began to investigate and collect telemetry and get ahead of the curve with this. And I'm curious what folks' thoughts are on them talking so openly about it and so publicly about kind of the details of what they did and whether that feels like a net positive or maybe less so for defenders and for analysts and folks doing this work. Like I'm curious what you all think of that.
It's a little weird for me to not view it as some kind of like marketing campaign. And I think that it's an interesting kind of like This is a really dark take, and I'm gonna acknowledge that, and I will also acknowledge that, like, there are researchers at Sophos doing amazing things. But, like, we're getting into this era of cybersecurity and hacking where this is effectively, like, cyber war propaganda in some ways. That's a really dark take, and I will acknowledge that. That being said, the amount of technical detail that they put in when you dig deeper is is actually very helpful to the people who are doing research on these things that aren't like the massively funded companies like Sophos. Sophos has an amazing reach when they're trying to find out more about this information. I mean, they're installed on so many things. They have so many like actual pieces of technology that fit into people's environments so that they can collect this data and even do this research that like so many people in threat intelligence will never be able to do. So for me it's like, ooh boy, it's weird that these are like marketing campaigns that kind of highlight the greatness of these companies that have contributed to these things, but like, oh boy, does this have some weird implications for like where we are and like how things evolve over time. It's really interesting to me, but I had some of the same like, oh, like putting this out thoughts. It's almost complicated morally for me, but like I'm glad that it's out there. I don't know. Is that kind of
Y-
what you were feeling, Emily?
Yeah, I can't quite figure out how I feel. Like I'm very happy they're talking about it, but I also am like, was TLP clear the right way to go? Like, should this have? I mean, again, I don't really have I don't know what my opinion is. I feel like that sounds weird, but
Yeah.
like I have feelings about it, but I don't know where I've landed. And that's kind of the
Yeah.
thing that's been on my mind about the whole story. It's fascinating. And I'm glad that we now have these details, but I'm like, should we have these details? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And that's kind of where I ended up on it too, is like, oh, I don't really know like where I stand on this. Like this because is it gatekeeping or is it national security?
I like that that's the dichotomy. Is gatekeeping, national security? Who knows? Who can tell really at this point?
Because like there are definitely like some gatekeepy things in this industry of like, I have this information, like why would I give it to you so that you can like conduct more research and get all the glory for discovering this thing.
For sure.
But at the same time, we've reached a point in the national security like dichotomy of weirdness of just the situation that we're in. Like everybody has to be more collaborative at this point. Like there is no benefit to being like the person to push out the research and look really cool because like there is an actual like factor of cyber war going into all of this. I hate the term cyber war, by the way. I feel like such a douchebag when I say that, but like we're there, so
It's a thing. I mean, look at we all got over cyber. We all got to get over cyber war. Okay, let's just
yeah,
that's the thing.
it's a thing.
So I actually it's weird. I didn't even flinch at the idea that that the level of details that were provided and both like the depth of the details and the expanse of the details, it didn't even phase me that that was a thing in the report. So that's I hearing you two have that discussion was pretty eye opening for me because as I now we take your lens and look back through it, it's like, oh wow, this is actually a lot of information to give away. It's pretty big. Because my first thought when I got and what just and I'm not bragging about getting to see it. I got to see this under like TLP, we will kill you in your sleep if you talk about it, which hearing that is the thing it was initially, and then like now it's all in the open is that's a weird transition to me. But my first thought was, holy cow, I was okay. This I'm sorry, everybody. I was really proud of the attackers. Like we finally had like we don't often have like we can hold on to a couple things right that of like wow this is they were really patient and they were really technically capable and they used really awesome techniques and they were low and slow and they knew their way around like the innards of firewalls and blah 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 blah. And when I got down to the part of the report where they're talking about like swapping out the malicious shared object in the Sophos firewall binary for another one, like, I literally got on, like, the old guy on the phone. I literally, like, zoomed up Morris, and was like, "Holy cow, holy cow." I was like a little kid because like, "Oh my gosh, like someone finally was smart again." It was really cool. It wasn't the stupid, we're just gonna use a simple CVE that it's been around for 20 years and just blow one thing up. Like this was a wow, they knew their stuff and they were doing some really great things. So, I mean, for me, I was glad that the report came out because I think everyone needs to understand that even though we always downplay the APT threat a lot because not everything, most things that hit organizations are not APTs. But in this particular case, this was an APT using APT techniques against a lot of organizations, regardless of whatever front end security technology you ran. And I'm glad it resurfaced that threat back to folks because I think by us dismissing it, we haven't caused enough organizations to try to at least have awareness of that thing going on in their network. And I think the second thing from it was but I already mentioned the low and slow. And I'm actually really sad about this now after being a week. And I thought, okay, finally, this is such amazing, substantial documented evidence of how poorly run perimeters can devastate the security of your organization. And it isn't just the fact that RCE might not get you root and execution, but it gets them to privilege and then go do all the like the whole thing that we all basically been saying for forever. I thought, oh, this is finally going to raise the awareness. Everyone's going to take this seriously. Everyone's going to throw out their Avanti boxes and they're going to do all the other stuff. And it's a week later, and I gotta tell you, I don't think anybody cares.
No. Well, maybe.
One, a week would be really fast to see that kind of change. But two, that's really optimistic, I think, to think that again, it's a consequential report. Like there's a lot in there that's very meaningful and kind of telling about like how much damage that can do. But like it feels really optimistic to me to think that that's going to, I don't know, prompt immediate change.
So I thought all the thought leaders, and so yes, I'm picking. I have no idea how many of the live folks from LinkedIn are on here, but I thought you thought leaders would just be pounding the drums now for like, hey, we need to take this finally seriously, and we're gonna need to do a massive campaign, and let's get the regulations in here, and let's go get let's give CISA like 12 billion more dollars, and let them have people on the ground to go help you swap out your tech. I thought you thought leaders would be doing some good stuff with this, and I haven't seen anything. I've
That's
seen
why
everybody make I've seen everybody make comments about the initial thing last week and a lot of chatter on all the socials, but, like, I haven't seen any one of the thought leaders do thought leading in this anything after this, and
that's why
it's
it
really
comes
annoying.
back well,
Sorry.
like, being a marketing campaign for me is just, like, Sophos being able to say, like, "We did all this stuff and now our devices are better." Like, you can know for sure that when you purchase a Sophos device, we have defended against, like, Chinese nation state actors. And that's really important for financial institutions, healthcare institutions. Like, you wanna know that, like, your firewalls and general security, that the research teams that are backing those devices know what they're doing. So it's really important in that sense, but I don't think that it's going to actually change anything about the industry. I think that it's gonna change, like, where the money flows. Um, dark takes. Just I have dark takes
Okay,
all around
so
about
and
this.
so I am not here to defend so I'm actually not here to do that, but
Yeah.
my I'll answer that in a second because I was also and I know I'm sorry about the optimism, Emily. I really apologize. I know this
It's
was
okay.
unusual.
I'll be counterbalanced today. That's
That's
fine.
cool, that's cool. But, because they took this is multi-year, and they took on the responsibility of coordinating with all these organizations to try to help them understand that they were impacted by these things and deal with it. They didn't have to do they're their own vendor, they have their own customers. By the way, they're also, like, one of the least frequently things that we see with remote access stuff inside Gray Noise, and I'm only saying that because, like, all the other ones are kinda not, and, like, these guys are actually pretty we do have a couple, but, like, they aren't on the regular spate of, like, "Let's go pound this thing to death," like Avante and all the other ones that are out there, so
Wonder if that changes now.
Right.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they become a target for that, but they haven't been. So like I use that as like I'm using that as a wow, like they've been better than all these other folks for whatever reason, or maybe they're just better at covering stuff up. Not them, but the people that have incidents recovery. But then like so because of like they didn't have to do this and they didn't have to take the time out for this report either. And like I get your marketing take. But this was a massive marketing effort when they already have to deal with, like, they just announced that major acquisition deal with SecureWorks, and, from someone who's been in a large organization that has had to deal with large acquisitions, this is that acquisition thing distracts every single part of the org, and Sophos isn't as giant as some of the orgs I was dealing with, and if it kept those orgs occupied and all the comms people occupied, this thing was an actual disruption to something that was a very important thing that they were doing with this acquisition. So the fact that they bothered to disrupt something that was already a very disruptive event, I also thought that was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna deny or challenge the fact that there is a marketing positive side of this though, Canberra, at all. 100%.
Yeah, I my darkest timeline take is that what replaces CrowdStrike, and I feel like Sophos is an excellent CrowdStrike replacement. But that being said, like CrowdStrike didn't seem to have any issues with bouncing back from their hiccup, I guess I'll call it.
Well,
So I wonder if that's
well,
also something that
you say that, and that's I actually don't think that's true because they are now permanently ingrained in the, like, BSOD sphere. Like, it's the CrowdStrike BSOD I see. So unlike the Sophos thing a week later, I still see references to the CrowdStrike thing since that
yeah.
whole
But
event
have you
happened.
seen action from it?
Like folks ditching CrowdStrike.
Sure.
Well, those are well, I haven't seen any thought leaders talk about it either.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean,
Yeah,
using that as a
The
proxy.
thought
Like,
leaders,
yeah.
it's all very
coming from
silent
thought
out
leaders.
there.
Well, I mean, being controversial these days in cyber as we found out, there is no shortage of folks in cyber because apparently orgs don't need cyber because they're finding cyber people everywhere. Probably not being thought leaders about it because they're kind of maybe don't want to put their neck on the line for it. I don't
It
know.
just it's hard to be a thought leader these days, you know? You can only have takes about methods. You can't have takes about companies because they might hire you someday because the job market sucks. I will sum up, even though I have spicy takes about this one, um, I really do respect like the Sophos research team a whole lot,
Absolutely.
and just Sophos as a company, like mad respect for everything in this. It's a really wonderful report. I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And I think I've been tracking a whole bunch of things that just make a lot more sense now.
Yeah. And, they did work with the Five Eyes on this and other nations as well too, but, like, I care about the Five Eyes more than others, sorry, right, the international listeners. And the the NCSC had a great report, follow-up with this as well too, so just definitely dig into a lot of the ancillary links that are out there on it because there's a lot of really, really great information, to be found, and it will benefit you in your career, and also maybe your org can benefit from some of the knowledge that you can share with them. Speaking in knowledge sharing, Emily, I know it's a secret, but, like, you guys have a report coming out, and I was wondering if I could coax you into giving us just a little bit of a detail about the report coming out?
Yeah, we do have a report coming later this month. So kind of one of the big areas of focus for our team this year has really been around industrial control systems. It's not new. We're not the first people to talk about this or investigate this or look at this. But we wanted to dig in and keep looking, and we've so far kind of looked at the U.S. and the U.K. a bit. But we have a report coming later this month where we're kind of zooming out and looking globally at sort of this state of ICS exposure in the world. So looking at not just the protocols themselves, like the ICS protocols, but also kind of looking at some of these more interactive interfaces like HMIs, human machine interfaces, looking at exposure of those, because that's a whole other kind of situation I think that needs untangling and is really interesting and really scary, I think. And so have been kind of digging into that, looking at sort of, where is it the worst? What do we see? What's the worst we see? And I will say the country where it is the worst by like orders of magnitude in terms of exposure. Um, you could probably very easily guess where that is, just based on
Guam.
IP allocation
It's Guam.
alone.
It's Guam, right? It's gotta be Guam. Those
Y
people in Guam can't keep their
You're
network
kind of
secure for anything.
close. You're kind of close, sort of, in a way. Um, but yeah, so that'll be coming later this month. We'll be taking a global look at all of those things and kind of talking about like where and what and maybe a little bit of the why, um, to kind of round out this year and this sort of focus on ICS.
Is there an ETA that people can be looking for, or just keep their eyes peeled on the blog?
Yeah, so the end of this month,
Okay.
maybe last week before Thanksgiving. Keep an eye out.
Ooh, this will be good. So something I can read instead of having to put up with football that my family will be watching. This is good.
You might
Uh,
prefer to put up with football, honestly,
no,
but
no, not
yeah.
at all. Nope.
Educate your family on ICS
Yeah.
instead of
I could read the report and make a PowerPoint presentation for them.
There
This
are
would be
parties
great.
where people do this,
yeah.
where they like
Parties? Like, are they? That's in
yeah.
scare quotes, right? Scare quotes parties.
No, like
Oh,
No.
you put together a presentation on a thing that you know really well or whatever, and I forget what they're called, but that's a thing.
boring. I think that maybe would be.
Wow, the spicy takes. Okay, it depends on the topics people choose. Like maybe it's exciting, maybe it's fun, maybe you learn something.
All right. Well, maybe everyone here can learn something about more about industrial control systems. Look. Okay. This transition thing, I hadn't planned it, but it's going pretty well today. I'm really happy about this. So, the Kimber, could you talk about the? We have two blog posts. One of them from your colleagues at Volncheck. What is this first one about?
Ooh, this first one is about the ABB Cylon Aspect, a widely used building automation and energy management system. So, this building and management system has a bunch of proof of concept exploits publicly available, but there's not much activity on those, which makes the exploitation activity that does happen stand out. So it's just a walkthrough of exploring those, what they look like, all that good stuff.
Very cool. And you
Very
have
good,
another
very good
one.
walkthrough.
Wait. And Baines actually worked pretty hard. You got two blog posts almost back to back. That's good job. Good job, Jacob.
Exactly. And then shell tunnel, we make a tool. It's called Go Exploit. There is now a command and control server built into it that captures reverse shell traffic. So that is a tool that we have created as a feature of it. If you want to know more, read the blog.
So if we start to see a proliferation of more C2 servers out there, we can blame you guys.
You can bet that we're tracking. We're tracking all of it.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. I can do this little one here. So we have this little thing called Sift. You may have heard of it a couple of times on the blog and on the internets. We just a quick TLDR for the folks that are still new to this. We have a small language model for HTTP traffic. We throw all of our millions and millions and millions of web requests a day at it. We do embedding generation. We look at compare against the past 30 days. We throw away everything that we've already seen before, and we show our humans because AI can't do and anything without humans, anything useful without humans. They go at it and they poke and they try to figure things out. And it surfaced a payload, a really odd one. And Constantine from our team got the lucky draw of the day for Sift and started poking at it and found not just one, but two CVEs. And we've talked about the CVEs before, so I won't go into a lot of detail. It's a camera. And I just one more shout out to Voncheck. Amazing CNA. They walked through the process with us, dealt with the vendor, all the stuff. Just top notch. You guys know you're great, but I'm just telling you more whether you're actually great about the thing. And but recently we're in Kev. We got two CVs in Kev. It's such I mean, it's okay. This is
This
one of
is
those
so
like
cool.
it's cool, but it's terrible that CVE, but it's so cool that we got two
It's
CVs
terribly
in Kev.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I like that. That's like nauseously optimistic. I like that. Terribly cool. So this is awesome. So go check these out. Definitely like make sure you update those cameras if you have them, and maybe press on the vendor to update a bunch of cameras firmware that are kind of also vulnerable, but they haven't done that yet. I didn't say that out loud. It's okay. Grey Knights also, Ashley and team put out the noise letter. It's always good, but the October ones are always amazingly good. So you need to go do that. Ignore the rigged candy election in this one, please. Though, please don't talk about that. And if you want to learn more about how we do that, so inside there's a link to this thing I have up right now, which is both Andrew Morris and Daniel Grant, who's so you know who Andrew is, and I think if you know Daniel's, but Daniel's our principal data scientist. They're going to talk about how this whole vulnerability CVE, zero day CVEs came about. So if you want to learn more about that, you can definitely sign up for that, and it's going to definitely be an engaging conversation between both of these two humans because they're really good at engaging conversations. Whew. Has there been a Kev since we started this endeavor today?
I don't think so. Mm.
CB, it totally was 100%. I don't want to hear it. Wow. We take our candy brackets really seriously internally.
Yeah, that's something very weird about Gray Noise is there's a very strong allegiance to Taco Bell and certain candy like factions in the company. There's just
Yeah.
like
That's very
it's one of the
specific.
yeah, it's one of the stranger Gray Noise
Taco
things.
Bell and Twix. Oh gosh, no. That sounds like the worst
Okay.
possible combination ever. Ever. Wow. All right. Well, again, so Kimber, thanks for waking up super early. I know being where you are, this is an actual like you have to this is a job, but so I really appreciate you hanging with us today.
It's fun. It's fun.
And
It's always a
you
blast.
you're
I
you're you
miss
go ahead.
I was gonna say I miss Glenn though. It's weird that your haunted house in Maine, you really needed like a human prop and took Glenn out.
I mean,
This is weird.
human, like previously, I mean, does to be human like are you still a human if you're no longer living? I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, here's hoping Glenn comes back from the dead.
It depends on well, the reanimation process hasn't been great so far, but we'll see. We'll see if we can get
We'll
him back.
see. All right.
And Emily, thanks for dropping by. I know you've been busy with that report and all the other stuff you've been doing, so thank you for also carving out time for this.
Yeah, always. This is the most fun meeting all week. So
I mean, that does say something. I don't know what, but it does say something.
so
And
something.
yeah, and Overwatch, thank you for all the amazing coordination again as usual. So that's a wrap on today's Stormwatch. From Mickey's menu mayhem to nation state actors surfing the Pacific Rim, we've seen more waves than a Volt Typhoon in a Category 5 season. Remember, folks, when you're dealing with Wingdings warfare or APTs knocking out your edge devices, it's crucial to keep your security posture more stable than a Jaeger in a kaiju showdown. Until next time, keep your allergen info accurate, your perimeters protected, and your signals noisy. This is Stormwatch drifting out. Catch everybody next week.
Bye.